of your favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McAllister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Well, hello and welcome. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning here in Hamilton. The weather is actually absolutely perfect, and so are the vibes in this city because the Cincinnati Reds have won 4 games in a row. We'll show you the updated win counter lately. Although I thought our graphics were a little touchy today. I don't think it actually was working earlier. But we do not have one big member of the crew today. Elliot Rearing is not going to be in the room today because he's feeling a little under the weather. I'm sure he'll be in the chat, but he should be back and better than ever tomorrow. But we'll see. Hopefully he gets better. We got Casey McAllister, Jacob Tissett, Jimmy Collins. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We have a fun show for you today. We're going to talk a lot about your Cincinnati Reds, and I'll try my best to be as unbiased as humanly possible. But before we get into the show, it was Memorial Day weekend, which I think is slept on as one of the best weekends of the year. And everyone talks about the holidays of Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, all these fun. Memorial Day weekend kind of kicks off the summer. We had beautiful weather. The Reds won. How was your Memorial Day weekend, Casey? I saw you went to the Reds game yesterday.
I did. I enjoyed my Memorial Day. Went to the Reds game, went to Taste Cincinnati, and just enjoyed myself on Monday. Saturday, Sunday were a bit more lazier days. I just hung out with family. Finished up Game of Thrones. That was something. I understand why people hate Game of Thrones and love Game of Thrones now. So I'm suffering a little bit right now this morning because I'm still grieving.
But
I'm
you
in my
enjoyed the
showhole.
ride overall.
I did. I enjoyed the ride overall.
It was like riding a roller coaster that just had really hard brakes.
Yes.
It was fun the entire time, then you're just like shot forward at the last second.
Exactly. That's exactly how I would describe it, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of roller coasters, I went to Kings Island with my family this weekend. That was fun. Memorial Day weekend, Kings Island gets pretty crowded. Jacob, how was your Memorial Day weekend?
It's good. It was a good weekend. Spent a little time down at the ballpark. Jimmy and I went down Friday night, kicked off the weekend.
That.
It was a good time. We made it out to Indianapolis for Game 3, and the Pacers broke my heart again, but what's new? So
at what
it was
point
a
are
fun
you going to
weekend.
give up on your Pacers?
I don't know. I got a whole offseason to talk myself back into them, so I'll take a couple weeks off, and then I'll get back on the horse.
I have a question about Friday's game that I'll get to later on. Jimmy, how was your Memorial Day weekend?
Great. Yeah, I had fun Friday night at the game. And then my girlfriend was in town, so she came back.
Is she finally back in town? Like, is she
No.
back?
She left this morning, but she'll be back in like 2 weeks. But then I went up and saw my family up in Culver. Saw my brother, who's about to be a senior, and yeah.
Is Culver K through 12? Like, when does it start? Is it just high school?
High school.
Like, it's just high school. It's
Yeah.
just a high school boarding school.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering about that. Yeah. So we'll get into headlines and then we'll talk about the Cincinnati Reds. 4 games. It's funny. We talked all last week. Reds are dead. And we jokingly said, what would it take to get you back? And I think collectively the answer was they sweep the Dodgers all the way back. Kind of halfway knowing that it wasn't going to happen or halfway thinking that it wasn't going to happen. And then it happened. So, yeah. Casey, headlines, because you're doing the headlines today.
That's right. I'm doing the headlines today. Trying to take over for Elliot here. I'll do my best. Let's get things started with the Reds. They are playing their best baseball of the season. They have won 4 consecutive games in a row, including a 3-game sweep over the Dodgers this weekend.
Whoop, whoop.
And it for sure felt different. The energy, the hype. I mean, the games were fantastic. The crowd, fantastic. I was there on, like I said, Monday, and, man, the energy was unbelievable. Yesterday, they added their 4th win in a row, beating St. Louis Cardinals. The score, 3-1. Nick Lodolo looked unstoppable in his first game since coming off the IL. He went 5 1/3 inning, giving up 5 hits and 1 earned run while striking out 3. Fernando Cruz appears to have found his footing, adding 1 2/3 innings, striking out 5. That was unbelievable. Striking out 5 guys in a row. That was very clutch at the time. Candelario responsible for a solo shot home run.
The Candyman can.
Candyman can. I was actually looking over at my buddy Thomas, and I said, "Can the Candyman can?" And he said he cannot. And immediately afterwards, just bombed it out of the park. So love that. Candyman can. Reds are back at it tonight as Andrew Abbott, wielding a 2.68 ERA, goes up against Kyle Gibson of the Cardinals. Gibson has a 3.81 ERA. Should be an interesting game.
Shout out to all the St. Louis Cardinals starters, because I think slowly they are getting close to their golden Buckeye card, because I feel like every single one of them are like 35.
Yeah.
It's like Sonny Gray, Kyle Gibson. They got rid of Adam Wainwright, though that age is still skyrocketing, though.
Yeah, as soon as Paul Goldschmidt came up to his first at bat, I was like, can't this guy retire? And then he bombs it out of the park. I'm like, golly, man.
Yeah,
always haunting our poor Reds.
Goldschmidt's a Reds killer. He's also a Cubs killer.
Around the league, we lead off with Angel Hernandez, the notorious umpire who has made himself the story of many professional baseball games, has announced he is retiring effective this week. He has umped his last game in the Major League Baseball game. Fans and players around the country are rejoicing.
Jacob, immediate reaction to Angel Hernandez retiring.
Couldn't be happier. He got us automated balls and strikes. He put us on this road to automated balls and strikes. So I'll always be thankful for Angel Hernandez.
You see, that's the positive spin. That's the positive spin that you get on this show sometimes. It's not Angel Hernandez, Angel. Is it Angel or Angel? It's Angel, right?
I'm not going to plant my flag in either.
Umpire Hernandez. Everyone's like, this guy sucks. But sometimes someone is so bad at their job that they bring about positive change in the world. And that's what Angel Hernandez did. So congratulations. Well, we're not there yet. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Although the MLB came out over the weekend and said that there's been a setback with automatic balls and strikes. So.
Earliest now is I think they're leaving the door open for opening day 26.
Okay. So 2 years away. 2 years away. It'll happen. It's an inevitability. Just like the DH was to the NL.
Of course. It's coming. Yesterday we had some scores. Orioles crushed the Red Sox 11-3. The Twins take the series opener over the Royals, winning 6-5. Blue Jays beat the White Sox 5-1. The White Sox have lost 6 in a row and 10 of their last 11. Yeesh. This isn't the only Chicago team on a losing streak.
Oh, yeah.
The Cubs have now lost 5 in a row as they fall to the Brewers 5-1. Brewers fans boo Craig Counsell in his first game back to Milwaukee. It's pretty tough, Reed. You want to comment on that?
I figured Craig Counsell was going to get booed. Yeah, this team's just not hitting. This team, I mean, they continue to get good starting pitching. They're just not hitting. They just simply cannot hit right now. Ian Happ, although he had 2 home runs the other day, hasn't been hitting the ball across the board. They're just not hitting the ball very well. They're they've won 3 games in the last 12. They're a tough watch right now. They really are a tough watch. This is about the time last year. It's funny. It's so funny. The same trajectories that are taking place between my Cubs and the Reds. About last year, the Cubs started out hot, and they get to the month of May and really struggled throughout the month of May, much worse than they were this year. And the Reds were bad for the first month and a half. Then right around Memorial Day weekend, they turn it all around and flip it on its head. So it's funny just how similar. It's like we're running a simulation again.
Yeah, and it's funny that we all thought the Brewers would – well, most of us thought that the Brewers would be much worse. It turns out they are 31-22 on top of our division, firmly ahead. So
the Reds have the second best run differential in the division, which I think is very, very interesting. They're in last place, but have the second best run differential. Yeah. Now, it's still negative.
It's still negative.
It's not 1. Good, but it is the second best.
I guess that just goes to show you how good the NL Central is. Padres, they beat the Marlins 2-1. Giants shocked the Phillies, winning 8-4. Nationals thumped the Braves 8-4. The Rockies ended their 9-game win streak of the Guardians yesterday, winning 8-6. And that wraps up the MLB side of things. Let's jump on over to the NBA. Celtics finish off the sweep of the Pacers. We just mentioned that earlier on. Poor Jacob over there. As Indy chokes late down the stretch again. I think we all kind of agree that they should have won at least 3 of those games, 2 of those games. I don't know how you feel.
They could have won 2.
I think 3.
I saw people going, The Pacers could have easily been up 3-1. That seemed like
I think they should be.
They
You were up
should have-
20
they
points
had a
in
lead
game
in the fourth.
3 turnovers to end the game 1. You throw the ball out of bounds and over to send it to overtime. And then game 3, you're up 20 in the third, 16 in the fourth. You blow it at the end, and then obviously last night they were up right until the end, and then ended up blowing it on a late foul. So I think 3-1's definitely feasible at the very least 2-2, but obviously all that's ifs and buts. So they're at home.
104.
Yeah, 0-4.
Shout out to the National Basketball Association, because I know they were not wanting an Indianapolis team in there, and they needed the Celtics in there very badly. And though Ant Edwards is a very marketable star, I think they're pretty happy with what's going on in the Western Conference as well.
It is hard to cry rigged series when you get swept, though. If the Pacers would have won a game, maybe 2 games, I would have been on here, clamoring that the NBA rigged it for their boys in green, but 4-0, it's tough to spin it that way.
You know what tweet in the history of tweets is not brought up enough? Like, we often talk about like famous tweets and stuff like that. The Aisha Curry tweet after the 2016 NBA Finals. You remember this one when she claimed that it was all rigged? I don't think that's one brought up. She said she saw it live.
I've seen it.
I've seen it live. Rigged for ratings or money or whatever, but I saw it happen. So we need to bring that one up a little bit more.
I mean, Indy also was without some of their players, too. They were pretty hurt and banged up. But regardless, I would list out some of the points in the box score stuff. I don't think I need to do that. They swept the Pacers, so there's nothing much more that needs to be said there. Mavericks versus the Timberwolves is later tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Central Time. And that should be a fun one. Hopefully the Mavericks also get a sweep, because I somewhat root for the Mavericks. That would completely destroy my take about the Timberwolves going to the finals. But, hey, at this point, it's a 3-0 series. I'm ready to just watch the finals, to be honest with you.
Luka's a fun watch.
Yeah.
The Mavs as a team are fun. And Edwards is too, but Luka is one of the most watchable NBA players going right now.
Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, Kyrie, no doubt about it. Kyrie. I wonder if he still thinks the Earth's flat. I wonder if that's still going on.
If the Mavericks complete the sweep tonight, the spotlight's going to be on the NBA's terrible scheduling, because I don't know if you guys know, but regardless of what happens, the finals don't start for 8 days. So if the Mavericks complete the sweep tonight, we'll have 8 days of no basketball before the start of the finals, even though both teams are at home. So.
I love both the NBA and the NHL, because the MLB, and rightfully so, gets the most flack for how long its season is, 162 games. So it makes every single game kind of go by the wayside. But the NBA and the NHL season is just as long, if not longer. Like, the NBA season starts in October. It wraps up at the end of June, or middle of June, I guess it'll be. The NHL is the same way. The NHL is going to get wrapped up in the middle of June. When do they start? I think they start in October as well. I think they actually start a little before the NBA. Yep. And both their playoffs are 2 months long. Maybe that's what the MLB needs to do. Cut down on the regular season game, just have a longer postseason. You get more teams, and that's I'm sorry to tell you, that's eventually what's going to happen. The more teams that go into the postseason, the more money the league makes. So eventually the MLB will continue to expand their postseason. I don't know if it'll ever get to where half the league makes it like the National Basketball Association, but eventually we will get. I mean, what's the longest an MLB postseason runs? 5 weeks? 5 weeks at tops?
Yeah.
So we'll get to the point where the NBA playoffs is 10 weeks. It's double that. It starts in April. And then runs to the middle of June. So we'll get the MLB will get something like that eventually. Postseason, it runs the world. Any other news?
Yeah, I got some final tidbits of headlines here before we throw it to break. NHL, your Dallas Stars.
That's right.
Take a 2-1 series lead after winning last night 5-3. Any thoughts on your Dallas Stars?
Yeah, another good win. I think they're the best team. I mean, I know they have the best odds to win the Stanley Cup. I think they do, at least.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, I think they do. I told you I'm not scared of Connor McDavid, and neither should you. But it's not my Stars. It's not my Stars, Casey. It's our Stars. Everyone that watches this show is a Stars fan. I know it deep down inside. I was actually at my sister's house, and all the nephews are running around. They're playing, and at one point, my brother-in-law, he's like, "Hey, they want to play like hockey." They're like, "Hey, I got a hockey stick. Let me go run down and get it." And what does he pull out from his garage? He pulls out a Mike Modano Dallas Stars hockey stick.
Ooh.
And I was like, "That's awesome. How do you have it?" He's like, "I used to root for the Stars." It's like, doesn't everyone root for the Stars? Doesn't everyone? They're R-stars. They're the collective R's. So just put a big arm around Jason Robertson and Wyatt Johnson in the squad because they're going to take home the Western Conference Championship. All right, that's the rest of the headlines. Is that it?
I got one more.
Sling it my way, Big Pimpin'.
FC. They had an absolutely thrilling victory over Toronto FC on Saturday. The Orange and Blue win 4-3 with a game-winning goal coming in the 4th minute of stoppage time. They have now won 7 in a row and only sit 1 point behind Inter Miami FC for the top of the table. What a fun game that was. I know none of you watched it, but those that did know that was just a heck of a game. Very sloppy, I would say, in the first half. And then it just turned on in the second half. Both teams were just back and forth, back and forth. Very fun, very entertaining game to watch. It was probably the best MLS game this year so far. So very entertaining.
How many wins are they at?
How many wins are they
Yeah, I mean,
at?
how many wins in a row is that?
That's 7 in a row. They're
7.
10-3-2 on the season. 33 points.
Okay, well, can we get a graphic for their 7-win streak, road to 12 in a row?
I would love that.
Road to 12?
I would love that. Who's going to get there first, the Reds or FC?
Speaking of which, and this is how we'll end it before we go to break, let's take a look at the wins tracker. The road to 12. There it is.
That's 4.
4 in a row. 1/3 of the way there. All they need is what? 8 more.
I have a question
Slinging
for
my
you.
way, Big Pimpin'.
We started this whole 12-game win streak thing, a little tongue-in-cheek. I'm starting to wonder why we stopped that. Are the Reds ever going to lose another game? Why did we cap this at 12?
Oh,
It really should
good
be
What if they
question.
lose
13.
It is 13.
113?
Now, 12 is an inevitability.
Right.
We know that 12 wins is an inevitability. The one that is hard to get is 13. Everyone wins 12 games. It's the 13th win that is so elusive. But they're at 4 right now. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your Cincinnati Reds, that and more on 1410 Wing AM. All right, we are back here on Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Reed Mouse, Casey McAllister, Jacob Tissett, Jimmy Collins, all in the room. I went to the Reds game on Friday. Went with my brother who was in town from Wichita. They're big Reds fans, big Ellie De La Cruz fans, which that is going to be later on. I'm going to give you my take on Ellie De La Cruz and everything like that. But was that the most exciting Reds game of the year, the Friday game against the Dodgers? Because I feel like it was. I know it was a long time ago, but the Grand Slam, all that stuff. Was it the
fun.
most exciting
I
game?
would still slightly put opening day ahead of it. I was there for opening day as well, and just strictly because of the percentage of the crowd that was Reds fans on opening day.
Sure.
Seeing sad Dodgers fans was obviously exciting, but the fact that they made up about 50% of the lower bowl was, hard to see for most of the game. But as the Reds took the lead and everything like that, it was a blast. It was a really fun game, and to see some of the guys who expect to hit a little bit better come out of their shell was what made it even better.
All right, so we talked about this last week. We said, what would it take for you to get all the way back? Because I feel like it felt like a funeral in here all last week. And we joked about how bad the Reds are. I know Elliot, as the fan he is, he likes to kill the season. He likes to revive it every single time the Reds lose and win a ball game. But we jokingly said, and I brought this up earlier, what would it take to get you back? Jimmy, with his bit, said 12-game win streak, the inevitability that is the 12-game win streak. Other people said getting back to 500, all these things. And then I think, Jacob, you were the one that said, if we sweep the Dodgers, I'm all the way back. So, are you all the way back?
Couldn't be more back, Reed. Could not possibly be more back in. I told Jimmy the bad thing about a 4-game win streak is I'm going to start betting on the Reds again, Reed. They're fun to watch. The pitching's good. The bats seem to be coming out of their shell. And the schedule gets a lot easier. I mean, you said it yourself. The Cubs aren't hitting very well. 2 more games against the Cardinals and then 3 games against the Rockies mixed in there.
Right.
We can steal some wins here, make up a whole lot of ground, and maybe get back in play.
Did you, you said you're all the way back. Did it ever come in your mind, even winning the game on Friday, even winning the game on Saturday, we going to do this thing? Are we going to do this?
After we won on Saturday night, I got a little excited just because that was the bullpen day against Yamamoto, and then with Andrew Abbott on the mound, or I guess, Martinez on the mound was the bullpen day. But getting that win in the last day with the bullpen, you knew the team was coming around the right way just because that's not a game you're supposed to win. No. That's certainly not a game you're supposed to win. And to sneak that one against him and then turn around and beat St. Louis, that's the sign of a good team.
Now, Jimmy, This is your first season really following the Reds, and you're locked in. You got your City Connect hat. Ever since you wore that City Connect hat, they have not lost a game.
They have not lost.
That is a fact. Are you starting to buy into the Cincinnati Reds team as a Detroit Tigers fan?
Yeah.
And as someone that said you'd only be back if they win 12 games, are you starting to buy into the Cincinnati Reds?
Yeah, I am. I mean, they haven't won 12 games yet in a row.
That is the big caveat.
But, I mean, I thought Friday night, I was like, all right, that'll probably be the one they win. Like City Connect Friday against the Dodgers. They hit a grand slam. They're robbing homers. Everything was going their way that night. So I was like, all right, that was pretty awesome. But they probably won't win the next two. And then they won the next two. And then they got a nice St. Louis was playing until like 1 a.m. the night before and then had to come out here.
Shout out Reed.
That was bull junk. Well, that was a load of bull junk that they played that game. Nothing was better, so they were wearing their City Connects. Let's say the Lou on them, right? And you see all these videos of water just flushing down in the tunnel. And the common tweet was someone flushed the Lou. So I thought that was pretty clever. But yeah, I needed the Reds. I needed the Cardinals to win yesterday. I didn't want to put up the 4-game win streak graphic. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to put up the 1L. But here we are. You know, you said everything kind of went right for the Reds on Friday because that was the game that we went to. It was I know that was 3 games ago, but man, Jonathan India, what a moment for him. You know, everyone's doubting him. We have fans talking about how Bronson Arroyo has a higher slugging percentage than Jonathan India. What's he do? He goes 3 for 3 with a grand slam, and that inning was weird. Golly, that inning was weird. They walked 3 guys without throwing a strike. Then Jonathan India just gets a pitch and rocks it. You know, my dad, everyone always asks me, they go, Reed, how did you end up being a Cubs fan? Like, is your dad a Cubs fan? No. Your family Cubs fans? No. It just kind of happened. My dad is a diehard Reds fan, but he hides his heart about the Reds, about better than anybody that I've ever seen. Like, he refuses to get excited. The grin on my dad's face, and we're sitting in the left field line, when that ball hooked around the pole for the grand slam, my boy was cheesing. My dad was absolutely cheesing. I've never seen my dad happier at Great American Ballpark than he was that night. All right, so as we look back on the 4-game win streak, as we look back, what was the most positive thing, other than the Reds just winning? What was the most positive thing that you saw? Was it Hunter Green dominating again? And I think a lot of people want to slander Hunter Green. Everyone asks me, what Reds do you like? I like Hunter Green. I like Ellie De La Cruz. They're the most talented. They are the most talented players on the field. And they continue to show that they're probably the best players on the team. Is it Nick Lodolo coming back from IL and throwing very, very well? And he's just a fantastic pitcher. Is it Jonathan India? He has the 3-hit game against the Dodgers on Friday night, then has hits in back-to-back games in Game 3 against the Dodgers and a game yesterday against the Cardinals. And, Jacob, we'll start with you because I think you follow the Reds most close. Out of all the positive things happening with the Reds, the pitching staff, the bullpen, India having great games, Spencer Steer on a 6-game hit streak, what gets you most excited?
I'd certainly say the bats. I mean, we've seen the starting pitching, what Hunter Green's been able to do over about the last month and a half, 2 months, has been great. Lodolo, before he got hurt, was great. Nick Martinez has been one of the best pitchers in the league since we started using him with an opener. So I think the pitching has somewhat been, or over the 4-game win streak, had been somewhat what we come to expect, even though it is far above what we expected preseason. I think that's kind of the output we expected from the Reds pitching. And to do it against the Dodgers lineup is obviously great to kind of ease the woes of it being just a blip on the radar and regressing back to the mean. But I think the bats coming out of their slump is what this team really needed. And to do it against the Dodgers, to score 4 runs on a pitcher like Yamamoto for only the 3rd time this year a team's done that is really important. And for guys like India and Steer to come back to a level of play that we kind of expected them to play at in the preseason. I know we have a lot of AAA and AA guys up and in the lineup, so you need those MLB guys to pick up the slack, and it seems like they're starting to come out of their slump a little bit.
Yeah, the big thing, and besides Friday, it's not like they're putting 7-8 runs up on the board. Let's not shake it. It's 3-4-3 in the last 3 games. But I think the big thing that everyone was missing from the Reds this year, as opposed to what it was last year, was just excitement. And I know wins are exciting. I know you always feel better after a win, but like the Friday game, that was an exciting game. You get big hits throughout the rest of the series against the Dodgers. And once again, the pitching has been absolutely lights out. I mean, putting up 1-run games in Game 2 and 3 against the Los Angeles Dodgers lineup, the best team money can buy. And then you give up 1 run against the Cardinals yesterday. Like this pitching staff, maybe we're a little numb to how well that they are pitching. It was exciting to see some of the bats that turn around. And like I said, it's just a matter of fact of this team is finally playing exciting baseball again. And I know, Casey, you're not the biggest baseball guy, but you went to the game Monday? You went to yesterday's game? You went to yesterday's game. What gets you most excited about the Cincinnati Reds team, the way they're playing right now?
For me, like, this might sound a little like a cop-out answer, but they're playing winning baseball. They're pitching winning baseball. They're hitting just enough to have a winning output or a winning result. Right. Yesterday, to me, it was the idea that it felt more disciplined, I guess, at the plate. They weren't striking out 10 to 15 times like they were early on in May. They only struck out 6 times. It felt like after Benson had 2 at-bats, like they made conscious decisions. David Bell made conscious decisions to put in players in positions to succeed, to take guys out, to not have more strikeouts, have more competitive at-bats. Fernando Cruz, by the way, I mentioned it in the headlines. I mean, that was fantastic. 5 strikeouts in a row. He was just on fire. Those were things that I thought were very exciting yesterday. Overall, I think that the hitting is just improved. I think they're just getting more disciplined, right? I mean, they're not striking out as much, and I think that's really good to see.
Yeah, putting the ball in play is obviously a big factor of everything. Listen, this team, I said it weeks ago. Despite what you think of how the roster is built up, and I know all the injuries and everything like that, it was impossible for the Reds to continue to hit like they were hitting. Every team goes through ebbs and flows. No matter how much Nick Krall wants to eliminate peaks and valleys, a team will do that throughout a year. It's can you win when you're playing your best ball, right? I forget what front office executive said this last year. It wasn't for the Reds. It was some other team. But they were talking about how the season went, and they said, we were playing great baseball in April, but we only were 3 or 4 games above 500 coming out of it. And when you're playing good baseball, you got to win games because there's going to be stretches where you can't lose or you can't win. Right? It comes and goes. 2 weeks ago, the Reds couldn't even find a win. Couldn't find a W in the alphabet. And now it's seeming like nothing can go wrong, and this will come up and down. So when things are riding, you got to keep riding the wave. You got to keep going with it, and that's what the Cincinnati Reds are going to have to. I mean, they've got a chance. Now they've won, the first game of the series in 5 straight series? 5 straight series? Dodgers, Cardinals, Padres. How many games? I think it's 5 straight series where they won the first game of the series. Now all they have to do, I think, is this a 4-game tilt or a 3-game tilt? 4. So it is a 4-game tilt. So they're going to have to win a couple more.
Or 3.
No, it's 3 against the
3
Cardinals.
before first game.
Four series in a row. They got an opportunity to take another series after losing 8 in a row. And at the end of the day, you win your series, you put yourself in a great opportunity to make the postseason come season's end. Nick Lodolo yesterday, absolutely shoved. I feel like Nick Lodolo has a weird – now this is all from the periphery, right? This is all coming from a fan that sees all the tweets, but it doesn't actively engage with Reds Twitter or anything like that. And Nick Lodolo feels a little divisive. Dude, is that fair? Is that a fair sentiment amongst fans?
I think divisive in the sense of some people think he's already a bona fide future ace, and some people need some more time. But I think everyone, Reds fans-wise, is in on Lodolo long-term as being a meaningful part of this rotation.
Nick Lodolo, I remember when he came out, he's been now, this is his 3rd year in the league, and after they gave the Hunter Green extension, I said, and I was wrong, I'll admit that I was wrong, that they should do this to Nick Lodolo instead as well, and you can't do that because of injuries. But Nick Lodolo, when he's on, might be one of the best pitchers in the National League Central, and I truly believe that. There's something about a lefty that can just show up and dominate a game, and I really do. People always ask me, who's your favorite Reds? And I say Hunter Green, I say Ellie De La Cruz. Nick Lodolo is probably 3rd on that tier, but him coming off injury and just shoving against an NL Central team that was playing red hot in the St. Louis Cardinals was certainly something that was a big jump to already an exciting weekend. We're going to talk about more Reds when we come back. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Stay tuned. You're listening to 1410 Wing AM. All right, so we're going to continue talking about, as we come back from break here on 1410 Wing AM, we're going to continue talking about the Cincinnati Reds, but I have a take about Elly De La Cruz. And it is one that I've gotten, that I kind of already thought, but after seeing my nephew, so I have, my brother lives in Wichita, Kansas. He's obviously from Cincinnati. He's a Reds fan. First thing he comes back, hey, I want to go to see the Reds tonight. They play the Dodgers. They play Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani. Let's go on down. So that's what we did. That's why I was at the game on Friday. And my nephews, the first thing they did when they got into the stadium, we need an Elly De La Cruz shirt. My oldest nephew, Reese, he wears a 44 chain on his jersey. He wears it everywhere. It's got ice, like these sparkly fake necklace and stuff like that. Then I went to a youth baseball game over the weekend. It wasn't theirs. It was another youth baseball game. Both teams had a number 44 on their team. 44. I don't know how much much time you spend around youth baseball, but that's not normally a number that they give out. It's normally about 1 through 10, 10 through 20, and that's about it. You might get a 25 on there. You might get one kid that wants to be number 99. But 44. So the Reds, I remember 2 years ago, or at the beginning of last year, I got a little peeved because I was listening to Chatterbox Reds, and Nick Kirby said, Elly De La Cruz has the chance to be the best player on the planet. I famously was like, Shohei Ohtani lives on this planet, so until that happens, it doesn't seem likely that Elly De La Cruz is going to be the best player on the planet. But Elly De La Cruz is living up to expectations. And more than anything, Elly De La Cruz is a bona fide superstar. And the way that you know that is how they're affecting kids. Right? You don't see kids wearing jerseys unless a player is a superstar. And I think that Elly De La Cruz truly has the way to impact. It's not just Cincinnati. Reminder, my nephews live in Wichita. Every team that they play has a number 44. They're wearing the chains. They're wearing the necklaces. They want to be like Elly De La Cruz. That's how you know that you have a superstar on your hands. Even at Mike Trout's peak, no one was wearing 27. No one wanted to be Mike Trout. Think about all the superstars and how they affect young children. Ken Griffey Jr., Derek Jeter. People wore 2 for Derek Jeter. Going across the sports. Steph Curry. Have you been to a youth basketball game recently? Kids are chucking up threes left and right. People like guys like Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. Elly De La Cruz, more so than maybe any player on this planet. I don't know if he is the best player on the planet, but he's certainly the most marketable. The way that he plays the game, 100 steals, kids are drawn to that. 450-foot home runs, kids are drawn to that. Web gyms all over the field, kids are drawn to that. And in an era where baseball is losing its foothold, by the day it seems like at times, and they're constantly grasping, how can we get to the younger generation? They have a superstar here in Cincinnati. They have someone they can market. If I'm Rob Manfred, I'm putting Elly De La Cruz on every commercial, every national commercial I can. The smile, the chains, the stolen bases, the home runs, all of it packaged in. And it's truly incredible to behold. It's truly incredible to behold. And the city of Cincinnati should cherish him. And I think they're starting to. There's obviously last year, strikes out too much, does all this thing too flashy. I wish he would just, the old guys, I wish he would just take off his chains and play, right? But this guy is a marketable superstar, and he's getting superstar status. If he's not already there, and if you don't think that, go to a youth baseball game and see how many number 44s are out on the field. See how many kids are wearing the chains. They want to be like Elly De La Cruz. It's truly incredible to behold. Do you think that Elly De La Cruz, I'll ask the left side of the room, Jacob and Jimmy, do you guys think Elly De La Cruz could be the biggest superstar in baseball?
I absolutely think so. You see just how big Acuna was last year while he was chasing his 40 and 70 run there, and I think Elly could easily clear those numbers. We're talking about him. He's dipped below recently, but he was on a 100 stolen base pace for most of the start of this year. 9 home runs already. He'll be pushing 30. So we could see a 30-80 season from him already, and we're talking about his first full season up in the majors.
Right.
The ceiling is so high for him and what he can become. And if he can just even out the peaks and valleys of his batting and stop having these games where he goes on a 5-game stretch of 1,000 hits and home runs and stealing bases, then he goes on a month where he bats 210. If he can start to even that out and just kind of be a more consistent player, both defensively and offensively, I think he's going to be a household name if he's not already.
It's incredible because just last week we were talking about if the Reds season truly is dead and all it took was 4 wins and we're right back, right? And there's still a long climb for the Cincinnati Reds to get back in playoff consideration, but at least people are excited about where the Reds are. We talked about what could the Reds look forward for the rest of the season. One of them was, can Elly De La Cruz be an MVP? Can he get 100 stolen bases? All these things that go in with him. This dude's box office. Jimmy, someone from Detroit.
Yeah.
Someone from outside of the city, an outsider's perspective. Do you think Elly De La Cruz has everything he can to be a superstar in this league?
Everything he can to be a superstar, yes. The biggest superstar in the MLB, I'd probably say no. Kind of similar to what you were saying, just where Shohei is, especially if he is able to come back and pitch again next year. He was a dominant pitcher, and he's arguably the best hitter in baseball when he's not pitching. Mm-hmm. So I think that has a draw all across the world because he is not from America.
I stood up every one of Ohtani's at-bats when I went to the game on Friday.
But
he went over.
I think Elly De La Cruz he's the exciting young player like you kind of talked about that the MLB needs to continue to be the sport that it has been for the past 100 years. And, I mean, I think he's really fun to watch. He's new. He's refreshing. Like Jacob was talking about with Acuna, he stole a bunch of bases, and that's Ellie's going to do the same thing. Right. But I wouldn't say he is the number one superstar in the MLB. Maybe obviously around
not
here.
There yet.
Obviously
not there yet.
Yes.
Trending there.
Yeah, but I just think Shohei he's such an anomaly to everything that every baseball fan really is used to, because you hear all the stories about Babe Ruth and what he was able to do on the mound and at the plate, but none of us were able to see that with our own eyes, and now you are almost kind of seeing it with Shohei. So I just think he's an anomaly to the superstar talk. But with Elly De La Cruz, he is definitely going to be a superstar, almost to the point where some people may think, like, when's he going to go out to LA? When's he going to go to New York? Yeah,
I wasn't going to say it, but the one thing pushing back from him being like the most marketable star on the planet is going to a bigger market. I don't think that's sad to say. I think that's just a reality of if he does go to a place like New York, if he does go to a place like LA, if he does go to a place even of the likes of Boston or Chicago or Dallas, he would certainly be bigger than he is right now in Cincinnati. But you look at other sports. In other sports, most marketable stars come from smaller markets. We're just talking about how Ant Edwards could be the face of the National Basketball Association. He plays in Minnesota. LeBron James was the face in Cleveland. Patrick Mahomes is the face of the NFL in Kansas City. And I know that maybe more so because of how regionalized baseball has become, that you need to be on a bigger team to really meet that superstar status. But I think he's already there, and like I said, it's the kids tell you what you're seeing. Elly De La Cruz is a Michael Bay movie on a baseball diamond. He does all the explosive things. He does all the fun things. He throws 97 miles across the infield. He can steal 100 bases. He hit the ball 460 feet. Do those things equate winning baseball games? Not always. Not always. But, man, it makes you always have your eyes on him when he's on the field. I went to the game on Friday. Elly gets on first base. I did not watch the batter the entire next at-bat. I'm watching Elly. I'm watching Elly to see if he takes off. I'm watching to see what kind of lead he gets. Where are the eyes drawn? And you guys have been to more games. When Elly comes to the plate, kids cheer. Kids get excited. And that's who we're catering to. Man, look at you. You become a Reds fan, Casey, and in your first year of being a Reds fan, last year, you already get a superstar on the team.
That's right.
You already get a superstar.
Yeah, I already get that guy that's like the difference maker, right? Now you just got to build the rest of the team around him. That's how I feel Elly De La Cruz is. He is the difference maker on this team. When he's on, you have a very, very good chance to win a ball game. Mm-hmm. And when he's not on, I mean, he still gives you a pretty high floor because of how good he is. I think the kids, equating the kids and what they do, speaks a lot of volume to what Elly De La Cruz is to the nation itself. I think he's a superstar. I think he already regionalized. It's him and Joe Burrow, right? Like when they talk about the Reds or they talk about the Bengals, it's Joe Burrow and it's Elly De La Cruz. They hardly ever mention all the other guys. And, of course, diehards Reds fans will say, you know, there's Matt McClain and there's Steer and Lodolo, Green, whatever. But the first person they mention is always Elly De La Cruz. And Elly De La Cruz, I know he had a little bit of a dip early on this season, but he always provides you with something. It always feels like he's giving you something that is just so magical. Like the one play where he's from all the way out in almost the right field, goes all the way to the warning track on the left side, catches that ball that Elliott had a problem with. Like that, those are just special plays, right?
I mean, he's catching strays on his flu day.
Yeah, sorry, Elliott. But like he's just so good even when he's not at the plate, right? He's doing things on defense that are just eye popping, and that's a sign of a superstar. I think what will really cement him is if the Reds continue to win, right? If they can be a team that can win ball games, and I know this is a little different than like the Mike Trout and the Shohei Ohtani thing, but those were two of the greatest baseball players put together on the same team in LA. I think what will really boost up his stock is just for the Reds to win. The Reds can start winning, and they have a winning franchise, which that's hard for me to say. A winning franchise here in Cincinnati is tough.
It's hard for a lot of people to say.
Hard for a lot of people to say. But legitimately, if the Reds can just start winning ball games, or they can start being a team where the league goes, yeah, that's a good ball club, and it's headed by Elly De La Cruz, that's when you know that he's cemented himself as an all-star.
Well, here's the thing, and this is how I know that he's not only the face of this team, but he could be the face of the league, is, you know, imagine national games, right? National broadcasts. We'll just go all the way. Reds make the postseason, regardless, truly regardless of how Elly De La Cruz plays for the rest of the year. Now, he's the best player on the team right now, but you can bring him all the way back to the 6th, 7th best player on the team for the rest of the year, right? Doesn't play as well as 5, 6 other guys. When they put the graphic packages together for those playoff games, Elly De La Cruz will star them. Elly De La Cruz will be the face that they put in front. Former first overall prospect, number 44, the chains, the drip, the smile, everything that you want. 97, 100 mile an hour across the field, making diving plays out in left field, hitting the ball 460 feet. Elly De La Cruz is every bit of a superstar, and he's the superstar that a team in a small market needs to sell tickets, to be at the forefront of conversations and national media, all the things that it takes to get in front of eyeballs. Elly De La Cruz has that and more. And to be honest, it's becoming more and more a no-brainer to extend him to whatever that entitles. Whatever that entitles. Because at this point, to me, it seems like the only thing that can derail him are injuries. Yeah. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to play a little buy or sell. We do this quite often here, but I like to get the vibes in the room. I like to get the buy or sell out, and it's going to be kind of centered around the Reds going into, from now until the All-Star break. That and more when we come back on 1410 Wing AM. And we're back on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We go live every day on YouTube, 10A to 12P. We're obviously live on your radio station if you're listening to this in Dayton from 1 to 3. Kenner and Kev will come up right after this show. So stay tuned for that. But we're on the home for sports in the Miami Valley, 1410 Wing AM. All right, it's time for one of our favorite segments of the week. Buy or sell. This is buy or sell Reds or Red Hot edition. Reds or Red Hot edition. First, buy or sell.
You ready for it?
I'm ready.
Buy. Sell.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. 4-game win streak. Season was dead on Friday afternoon, all the way back right now. Reds will get to 500 by the All-Star break.
Ooh.
Buy or sell. Jimmy C, what do you got?
Ooh. I mean, if they keep playing this way, absolutely. But
If they keep playing this way, they'll be
Yeah.
over 500 next week.
yeah. I don't think I'm quite ready to go.
All right, you're selling.
Yeah.
You're selling.
I think they've shown that they can get back to what the fans thought they would be these past 4 days. But there are too many, like, at least red flags in the lineup to where it's going to go back to that. They're not going to, like, obviously it was really bad, and you had talked about it's not going to stay this bad forever.
Correct.
But it's also not going to stay like this forever. You know, there's
Ebbs and flows. Yeah, and it's
they're gonna find their median. I mean, they still play some good teams. I mean, the Cubs are still a good team. They play them. They are still a good team.
Thank you.
They play 7 times. They play Cleveland, who's red hot. They have a 5-game stretch where they play 3 at Milwaukee and 2 against Cleveland. That's tough. I mean, Pittsburgh can still pitch, and they play them a bunch. They play the Yankees. Yeah, I mean, it is still that stretch late where
3 easy ones against the Tigers.
yeah, the Tigers can pitch, but it is that stretch late where if they go on a run against the Tigers at home, the Rockies at home, and the Marlins at home, to where you could see them win a lot of those games and hover around 500. But I don't want to totally go all in on getting back to 500 by the
Selling.
All-Star break yet.
He's selling.
I'll sell that, but I'll think about buying it.
You're window shopping.
yeah,
you're
you're
window
window
shopping
shopping.
right now. You're checking the price tag. You're like, do we have it? Do we really need this? But he's selling right now. Jacob, buy or sell?
4-game win streak. Vibes are as high as they've been all year, and you look at the Reds, and they're still 6 games below 500. It just really puts an emphasis on how bad that stretch was. That 8-game losing streak at home, 20-30, now just 24-30. I'm still gonna buy. I'm window shopping just like Jimmy, but I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to buy it. Because we circled that stretch going into the All-Star break. You got Colorado, you got Miami, you got those games against Detroit. You got 3 games against Colorado in there again here in the beginning of June. I think there's 6 games above 500 in that stretch, probably right at 500, right around, maybe not even more than a game or 2 above, but I think it's going to be close. I'm going to buy.
He's buying. Hit the buy button. Let's go.
Yeah. Listen, this is a very classic case of meeting teams at the right time. Cubs they're like this right now. They're just sinking.
Thanks.
And we get to play them 7 times in the next 12 games. Ooh, baby, sign me up for that. I cannot wait to get the tiebreaker against the Cubs for a 2nd time in a row. Yeah, I'm 100% buying that. I think that they'll get above 500 just because the next 12 games, like just St. Louis, which I feel like, I think that they can handle business there. They play the Rockies and they play the Cubs. And we already know how the Cubs are. They're a good team. But we still had the tiebreaker over them last year, and they were a pretty good ball club last year too. So I think just because of the timing and how things are shaking out, I like the Reds' chances to get above 500.
So you're buying.
I'm buying.
You're buying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's will the Reds get back to 500 by the All-Star break? I'm selling. What are we talking about? We have 4 games. What in the world are you talking about? Casey can say that you're playing the Cubs at the right time. 7 games. By the way, congratulations to the Reds on getting the tiebreaker over the Dodgers. They now have the tiebreaker over the Phillies and the Dodgers. I'm sure that'll play into a big part of the season later on. But Casey talking about needing the tiebreaker over the Cubs and all that stuff, that's good talk. It's normal Cincinnati sports talk. That's what we care about, tiebreakers here in this town. Selling. They're not going to get back to 500. Come on, guys. Come on.
Nick Kirby does the thing that's never fun to do when talking about a team getting to 500, and he points out exactly what they'd have to be. The Reds would have to go 25-18 before the All-Star break to get
Super
to
doable.
500.
Super doable.
That's real tough when you put it like that.
All right, speaking of the All-Star game, and speaking of Elly De La Cruz will start at shortstop of the All-Star game. And I'll lay this out before we get there. It is fan voted. It is fan voted. We just talked about how he's a superstar, but there's one guy in front of him that's already a superstar. Jacob, will Elly De La Cruz be the starting shortstop for the National League?
If you look at his numbers, if you look at his excitement, the posts on social media, everything like you said, it is fan voted. I think he does have a chance. He has a really good chance. There's this guy in LA, Mookie Betts, who plays shortstop as well. He's currently plus 130 to win the NL MVP. And yes, we are still in May. So I'm going to sell it, but Elly will certainly be in Arlington for the All-Star game. He's going to be right there. We're certainly going to talk about him making a push for All-Star starter, but I think Mookie has that one in the bag.
Jimmy?
Mookie.
Selling. Casey?
Oh, man. I mean, I wish I knew more of the MLB like you guys do. I'm just going to have to sell because I just feel like the numbers – people are going to look at the numbers. They're not going to actually watch what is on tape, right? They're not going to see what he does out in the outfield. Just for that reason alone, I'm going to have to sell.
So here's the thing. I could see the MLB trying to shoehorn in Elly into that lineup. I don't do they when they I guess they do when they do the All-Star voting. You do vote for a designated hitter now for the National League. Used to not be
the
that
issue
way.
with that is it's going to be Shohei. So the DH spot's not open.
That's true. So Shohei will be okay, you're right. Because I was thinking maybe they'd shoehorn him in some other position. But listen, if this was pretty much any other year, literally any other year, Elly De La Cruz probably has this locked up already. It would take an injury. It would take him not getting a hit for a month to not make the All-Star team. But, yeah, it's just Mookie Betts playing for the Dodgers. And also it's the fact that it's Mookie Betts and the Dodgers. Like, if someone was having a Mookie Betts-esque season, which he's on pace for, like a 12 WAR, and he played for the Rockies, where he played for the Pirates, it would still be Elly De La Cruz's, but it's the fact that it is Mookie Betts and it is the Dodgers that Elly will not start at shortstop. Casey?
Just to let you guys know, Francisco Lindor and Orlando, I don't know, Arcia were the two shortstops last year for the All-Star selection.
Neither one will be.
Yeah, I don't think either one will be this year. But typically it's so the starters are typically fan voted. Like it's not like sometimes it's not deserving. In 2016, the All-Star game I think had 7 Royals start and like 6 Cubs start. It was literally just the Cubs versus the Royals to start that game. And that was because it was fan voting, and everyone's like, "Oh, should we still do this fan voting thing?"
Last year, the Braves had
almost
everyone.
Deservingly so.
Right, yeah.
Right, deservingly so. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how many non-Braves and Dodgers there are in the starting lineup to begin with.
One down.
Acuna.
Yeah, Acuna. It's tough, by the way.
Tough,
I
very tough.
I wasn't even get that. It's when we talk about other sports, sometimes you never wish for someone to get injured. But, am I going to be overly upset if Lamar Jackson misses a couple games next year? No. Am I going to be overly upset if Patrick Mahomes misses the postseason next year? No. When it comes to baseball, you absolutely never want to see anyone. You just want to see Mike Trout play every game. You want to see Ronald Acuna play every game. You want to see all these guys play every single game. And Ronald Acuna missing the rest of the season. This is now his second season-ending injury. It's tough. I hope that these don't derail his career like we've seen so many other superstars.
He bounced back very well from the first one.
That's right.
Hoping for the same.
That's right. That was 2021, I think it was?
When they won the World Series, and he bounced back and he won MVP. So
That's right.
That's true.
It's tough.
Nate Seltzer asks, over under 3.5 Reds in the All-Star lineup. I would comfortably take the under there.
In the All-Star lineup?
I think he means making it.
Okay, so here's the next buy or sell. Will the Reds get 2 All-Star game? It says starters. Will the Reds get 2 in the All-Star game?
Like selections?
Yes.
In general?
I will buy that. I will buy the over 1.5. I think that is the line because I think Elly's a shoo-in. Even though he's probably not going to start, I think Elly's a shoo-in.
Elly is a shoo-in.
I'll buy the over 1.5. I think Hunter Green's pitching well enough with a big enough name that he'll certainly be in the mix. I think if Fernando Cruz gets that ERA down, he leads all relievers in strikeouts. If you look at just pure numbers, he's going to be in the mix.
No other position players can do it.
No other position players is going to be close.
So it would come down to whether a Hunter Green I don't think Fernando Cruz can because he's not a true closer, and typically it goes to those true closers. I don't know. I'm gonna sell this. Hunter Green has the best shot without a doubt.
Part of me thinks Hunter Green will.
Maybe Andrew Abbott. I mean,
I know there's other players that have numbers, but when it comes down to like there's gonna be 4 or 5 starters that have similar numbers to Andrew Abbott.
Right.
And when they look around like, hey, do we want to give it to the Red Andrew Abbott, who's Reds fans wouldn't even say is their ace, or do we want to give it to the Dodgers 3 or the Braves 3? The Braves have a great pitching staff. I just don't see it. Hunter Green is the only other Red I can see making it.
Is it fair to say if like there's multiple choices for people to vote on, like there's probably not going to be a second Red? Like if there's just Hunter Green to vote on, I can see there being 2. But if it's Hunter Green, Abbott, and
so how
Cruz,
it works, Casey? So you vote on the starters, and you also don't vote on the starting pitching. The starter pitching is determined by the coaching staff of the All-Star game, right? I think that's how they
and media. I think it's 60-40.
So it's I guess David Bell will, because he's on the staff.
He will have a
say.
Decent say. So that would be the thing that would maybe push the Reds over to get an extra one.
Yeah, it's typically the guy who won the pennant the last year. So Torey Lovello, the manager of the Diamondbacks, media, and the rest of the coaching staff will decide the non-starters, the non-starting position players. So the entire starting lineup will be decided by fans. The rest of the team will be decided by media. And the other thing is typically there's like the All-Star game rosters are expanding to a point where like there's like 40 guys that are typically All-Stars now. Like I think the Cubs last year had 2 guys that didn't even go to the game. Marcus Stroman was one of them. He was healthy. He just didn't want to go.
Kirby makes another good point. About a third of the pitchers every year don't pitch, whether it's because of rest or injury or whatever. So having Hunter Green and Abbott right there in that next section, it would be feasible that one of them gets called up when someone backs out.
Do you think older players that have been to 9 All-Star games, do you think they man, I really want this week off?
I think it depends on the city. If it's in a bad city, not a very fun city, maybe you tweak a hamstring or something, take the week off, enjoy your All-Star break.
It's in Dallas, right?
It's in Dallas, new stadium. Right. They just won the World Series. I assume there'll be some fun festivities down there. I think everyone will want to play in this one.
But I guess I bet you it happens more so with the guys that aren't perennial All-Stars, but have been to 3 All-Star games. You know what I'm saying? I'll just do the Cubs thing. Marcus Stroman didn't go last year. He was a pitcher. He didn't want to go. He just didn't go. Those are guys that I feel like will just be like, man, I can take 4 days off, or I can travel for 2 days and get to do all these fun things. But I've done it 2 times, and I'm not gonna be stockpiling them up like a Mike Trout, like a Mookie Betts. It's gonna go to 12 All-Star games by it's all said and done. And those numbers matter. Like when you look at Hall of Fame candidacy, you're like, oh, they made 14 All-Star games. We do that all the time. Jimmy, you think there's gonna be more than one Red?
If I had to buy or sell right now, I'd probably sell and say that it'll only be Ellie. But I do think that if a pitcher like Andrew Abbott or Hunter Green can keep racking up wins and pitching the way they have, their stats definitely are worthy of an All-Star game. And like Jacob said, that Nick said, some of those guys just won't go and won't pitch. And having David Bell as an All-Star manager, I think that they could definitely have to. But I don't think it's for sure enough right now to where I would definitely buy. So I'm gonna sell.
Well, Carrie just put this in the chat, and I already saw Jacob's response. Will Ellie play in the Home Run Derby? Because I think we know that he is. I think we know that they're going to be asking him to play.
I hope not. Allegedly, they asked him last year, and he said no because he didn't think he had deserved it yet. Okay. He wanted to spend some more time in the majors. I hope he says no again this year. I don't know if it's an old wives' tale or not, but I'm one that certainly thinks the Home Run Derby ruins swings. So I do not want him getting in there and getting in his own head about trying to hit balls a country mile. And
you wouldn't get excited. You're
oh my gosh, I'd be so excited. And I'd have so much money on him to win, but it wouldn't matter because he'd come back for the last 70 games or so, and he wouldn't be able to hit. So other than that one night of complete excitement, maybe one of the best nights of the Red season if he's in the Home Run Derby, I don't want him to do it.
It is funny because that's exactly where we're at. I remember having this talk with people about the World Baseball Classic. You can have the take I don't want my player to compete in this. I don't want my favorite team to have players competing in the World Baseball Classic. And just like Jacob said, I don't want Ellie De La Cruz to play in the Home Run Derby. But the second that it's announced that Ellie De La Cruz is going to the Home Run Derby, you're going to get excited.
So excited.
You're going to be like, yes, I got to watch my favorite team have a guy on one of the biggest stages in the sport. The Home Run Derby gets as many eyes as, if not more eyes than probably the World Series.
I don't know.
I don't know. I have to check
close.
those numbers because normally there's no other sports going on. It's really just the All-Star game. Home Run Derby probably gets just as many eyes, if not more eyes, than the All-Star game.
This year or not, do you think he will at some point?
I
Home Run Derby?
think he will this year.
You do.
Unless he keeps turning it down. Unless that's like against him. And according to your wives' tale, it's because he thought he didn't deserve to be an All-Star.
He thought he didn't deserve to be an All-Star last year.
Because he had just come up.
Right.
He had just come up. Yeah, they always get these young guys to be in it. Are there any token All-Stars this year like they did a couple years ago with Albert Pujols and Mickey? There's no token guys this year. There's no guys on there that have already said I'm going to retire.
No, I don't. Not that I've heard.
Yeah, I don't think so. Unless I'm just forgetting someone like huge.
Yeah, I don't think of anybody. I think he'll play. And as for the All-Star game thing, I think Hunter Green's really the only other guy that can. And if he continues doing what he's doing, I think he will be right there on the precipice. But I'll take the under because I think it's the better bet. And the final buy or sell before we go to break. The Reds are the worst team in the division. Bye. We'll see you more when we come back here on 1410 Wing AM. All right, we're gonna do the ads. It's 11 o'clock. Casey Rue.
Take it over?
Who's got the
I'll
bills?
take it over. The Reds report, Bengals report, and all the other fun teams around here in Cincinnati is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
productivity.
That's right, productivity. The path to innovation begins right here. Visit encore.tech. Let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here.
Looks like it tastes great.
It does. It tastes wonderful. Pawnee water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio, uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing of the brands used. The result is a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. And because I don't know if we're contracted to only do Mondays, I'm going to just save ourselves and just make sure that we do the other ad read.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up real quick. The Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I actually used it yesterday. I went ahead and got 6 tickets for all of us to go sit in our outfield seats and got $20 off. Yeah.
You got to see the tickets before you bought them, too.
Exactly. Yeah, I was happy with where we were
pricing.
sitting at. It was a good deal. I loved it. It was great. I actually got it at Game Time too, just like how the ad actually says. I waited until Game Time. The tickets kind of dropped a little bit, prices wise, and was able to get really good seats.
One time, I tell this story, so I often talk about how I messed up. The year that the Bengals, Andy Dalton's final year, and Zach Taylor's first year, season tickets for the Bengals cost $200 for the season. $20 a game. You got 10 games. Now, the ticket for a single game is up in $150, $200 range. But the year that the Bengals made the Super Bowl, 2021, obviously Joe Burrow had been coming off an injury. They were pretty bad, really, really bad. Jamar Chase was the 4th overall pick. I went to 5th overall pick. I went to the first game of the season, played the Vikings. It was a comeback win. Joe Burrow hit C.J. Uzomah. Evan McPherson hit the game winner in his first game. I walked into the stadium and bought tickets for that game in the lower bowl on Game Time for $17. $17 is what I bought those tickets. It wasn't even a sellout. It wasn't even a sellout.
How long do you think they would have, old Paul Brown would have let you lock in that $200 season ticket
Next
price?
year. Next
yeah,
year.
you're not even getting 2 full years out of that?
No.
No way.
What do season tickets cost now? $1,500?
I don't even know anymore.
A lot.
I think they're like $1,500.
Up there for sure.
The crappy part about it is you got to pay full price for the preseason game too.
Yeah.
They don't.
And you can't sell those for half.
They don't prorate those.
The best is you get the early buy at the playoff tickets, which with how you expect the Bengals to be every year, that certainly pays for itself.
I heard my dad had season tickets growing up, and he never went to the Browns or the Steelers game because that's how he paid for the tickets.
Oh yeah.
You sold your Steelers tickets, you sold your Browns tickets, and the rest of the season was yours. I didn't realize how many games I'd been to as a kid because I used to sell programs down at Paul Brown Stadium. And so they would let us park underneath the stadium where the players parked. Like we had our own little parking spot, all the program sales. And we somehow figured out that like we had these like passes that like decided where you could go, and they literally just took a normal hole punch and would just go like, hey, they were allowed in this area, they were allowed in this area, and it would like punch off. And one of the areas was like where they would meet with the families. And we realized they're just using a normal hole punch for this thing. So we went to Staples, bought a $1 hole punch, and every game we'd go to, we'd hole punch where they would meet with the families, and we would literally like they would meet with their wives and girlfriends and families and everything like that, and we would there'd be 8 of us, 8 high school kids just wandering around asking kids for pictures. I remember I got a picture with Andy Dalton. We all did the Horned Frogs thing. All did the Horned Frogs thing. And I one time met Peyton Manning. I got a picture with Peyton Manning. God, it's a terrible picture though. It's a bad picture. One that you can't even, because it was back in the ages before you had like the triple cameras on the phones. You remember old flip phone cameras? They weren't good. They were not good. We make fun of Apple commercials. Oh, we've got 4 cameras now, but the cameras are getting exponentially better.
Good.
They're getting
Just
exponentially
unbelievably
better.
good.
They're yeah. Like go look. Actually, you know what? Go on Facebook and look at pictures from even 10 years ago when iPhones have been out for near a decade at that point, 2014, 2015. But the picture quality is terrible compared to now. Terrible. It's interesting. But I have just a terrible picture with me and Peyton Manning. The sun's setting behind us. Yeah, and it's actually, I think Peyton's forehead does an eclipse of the sun. that big 7 head of his, the sheriff. I think he needs a 20-gallon hat. That sheriff does. All right, we got to take a break, and when we come back, we'll do the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about the other sports happenings. You went to the Pacers game. We'll talk about the heartbreak of the NBA, and maybe we'll talk about some Reds a little bit more. We are 100 days away from NFL football, which is exciting. Exciting.
Very exciting.
We're across the edge, and the beautiful thing about NFL is because the season before you get there is the summer. It goes really quick. You get excited for baseball in like January, but you're in the worst months of the year. January, February, March are the worst months of the year. And luckily, football it comes here in no time.
2 days ago was the midway point between the Super Bowl and Week 1. 15 Sundays
yes.
since the Super Bowl, 15 Sundays till Week 1. So
Heck yeah.
we're over the hill.
Heck yeah. What's the first Sunday night? I need to look up that schedule.
Lions-Rams.
It's Lions-Rams?
The opener is obviously Ravens-Chiefs Thursday night. That'll be incredible.
That'll be incredible.
First Sunday, yeah, Lions-Rams.
Should the Bengals drop some news right before
Yes.
right
let's
before
do it again.
kickoff of Week 1 like we did last year?
Jamar Chase signed to an extension. Let's do it.
I want to do everything in my power to minimize the Chiefs.
Just in general.
I want to, like everyone always makes fun. I always call it Burrowhead now. And they're like, well, they've beat us like 2 times now there, and you can't call it that anymore. It's like, listen, I will continue to call it Burrowhead because it makes Chiefs fans mad. I will continue to talk crap to Chiefs fans, even though they've won back-to-back Super Bowls, even though they've won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, like we own them. Because it makes me, just gives me a little bit. It just gives me a little bit. Even with the Reds and Cubs stuff. I don't know. I didn't talk a whole lot of crap when the Reds were losing. Now they're winning, and I'm full-fledged.
As long as Mayor Aftab doesn't hop on another video talking about Burrowhead, I'm fine with anything else.
I didn't mind the gesture. I
It was
didn't
the
mind.
delivery.
It was the delivery. It was so bad. Oh my goodness, it was so bad. Travis Kelce called him a jabroni. Golly.
It's hard to bounce back from that.
Me and Casey, I've told this story so many times. We were on a trip there, kind of a work trip, and we go to the K-State Kansas game 2 days after the AFC Championship game, and I had begun healing. I was I don't know how many stages of grief there are, but I was about midway through, and I was having fun in Lawrence at Allen Fieldhouse, and then at halftime, they announced Travis Kelce's in the stands, and it was like, I imagine it's like if you had been in a relationship for like 5 years and you get dumped, and months had gone by, you're finally getting over it. Then you go to the bar on Friday night, and there's your ex-girlfriend, just bringing everything back. And I was fully over it. I was fully over the hill. And then I just see, congratulations to Travis Kelce and the Kansas City Chiefs for going to the Super Bowl. And it was like, it broke me. I started MFing every single college student that I was standing around. These poor 19-year-old kids felt the wrath of a heartbroken Reed Mouse.
The Beastie Boys will never be the same. Let's just put it like that. they introed in Travis Kelce with "You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party," and I was just like, "Who are they announcing?" And then, of course, Travis Kelce. But
What's your favorite Beastie Boys album?
I have no clue, to be honest with you.
We did this one time. It was right around the time that they went out to on the West trip. I asked, at that time we had Lindsay in the room. Went around and we talked about our favorite albums. We ranked our favorite albums. Now that we're in kind of the dead period of sports, maybe we'll do some more pop culture stuff like that. But I asked Casey, what's one of your favorite albums? And he said, my third favorite album of all time is License to 3 by the Beastie Boys. I said, woof. Love it so much. License to Ill, Casey. License to Ill. Beastie Boys are great. All right, we're going to take a break when we come back. We are back on 1410 Wing AM, off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We are Elliott Reeling-less, which, man, it's like Ellie De La Cruz being out of the lineup.
It's much calmer.
It is much calmer. And we were talking off air for those listening on radio that we are 100 days away from the NFL season, and it's kind of getting exciting. Because it seems like the summer just blows by, and you're like, oh, wait, I get to see Joe Burrow play again, or whoever you root for. If you root for somebody else, just turn the channel, though. Just turn the channel. Just kidding. Thank you for being here on 1410 Wing AM. But there are other sports going on. We touched on it briefly. And we'll touch on it briefly here in this Touch and Go segment about really what's going on in the NBA playoffs. We said when the Knicks were playing the Pacers, man, the NBA really needs the Knicks to overcome. They want to see that market. They want to see New York's market get in, not Indianapolis. And they got their wish with Boston getting in. And I think they're getting their wish with Dallas and Luka. Although I think they want to kind of put Ant Edwards on a throne. They kind of want to push Ant Edwards as the face of the NBA for a couple different reasons. A lot of similarities in the way he plays to Michael Jordan. He's an American, which I think that kind of plays a little bit into putting the face of the league when the league's becoming more and more national. It's becoming more of or international. But they're going to get the two bigger markets in here, which undeniably is better for the NBA, no?
Yeah, certainly. As big as Anthony Edwards has gone and as many eyes as he's gotten on the Timberwolves this year, it's still Minneapolis, Minnesota, and with all due respect, that'll never be a big market. I mean, it's Dallas and it's Boston. It's Luka, who hasn't won yet, and it's his first time in the finals, versus Jason Tatum, who's been there in what seems like every year since he's gotten to the league. So I think it's setting up to be a great storyline. I know we're already penciling the Mavericks into the finals, but they do still have to win one more game, only up 3-0, game 4 tonight. So maybe the Timberwolves can pull off a historic comeback, in which case I think the eyes on the finals would be even bigger. So I think they're set up pretty great right now with the two teams they'll be facing.
Shout out to Dallas, by the way. Between the Rangers winning it last year, the Stars are up 2-1, Dallas is up 3-0 too, so they'll likely have won They'll definitely have one of those two teams in their championships, but they might have two.
ESPN put up a killer graphic over the weekend. It was years since last conference finals appearance, every team in Dallas. Rangers with a big 0 next to them. Stars, 0.
Rangers.
Mavericks, 0. Cowboys, 27.
It's going to be so awesome because one of these teams is, like, the Mavs will probably be in the finals unless they somehow.
It's never happened before in the NBA.
It's never happened.
It's only happened in baseball.
Yeah, unless they somehow blow it, which numbers tell you that won't happen. But it's going to be really awesome when hopefully the Stars make it to the final.
Our
Stanley
Stars,
Cup,
yeah.
Our Stars, yeah, to the Stanley Cup final, and then the Cowboys have a great season. They score like a zillion points, and then they lose first round at home.
Someone just called the Mavs salt and pepper. That made me giggle. A little bit. The Mavs are fun to watch. They are fun to watch. Luka is honestly maybe the most watchable thing. But let's just shift topic. Dallas, and we've talked about this before. If you are Jerry Jones, are you signing Dak to a long-term deal?
Yeah, right away. I would have already done it if I'm Jerry Jones.
Really?
I have 5 NFL seasons left on this green earth. And you think I'm going to go find me another quarterback? No chance. I'll empty my pockets. You can't take it with you. I'll empty my pockets. I'll bring back Dak. I'll bring back CeeDee. I'll bring back Micah Parsons. Get the band back together. I wouldn't have traded Amari Cooper. I just pay everybody. I don't know. If I'm Jerry, I'm not making another run and trying to, because he doesn't even draft quarterbacks in the first round. Tony Romo undrafted Dak in the 4th round after pick 100. I think I'm re-signing Dak and making a run at it because I'm not waiting anymore.
I'm gonna look up when the Dallas Cowboys last drafted a quarterback in the 1st round. But are you paying Dak? Because I'm not paying Dak. I'm not paying Dak 55 million, whatever he's doing.
I'm not either. But you asked me if I was Jerry.
Yeah, if I'm Jerry, I kind of agree with Jacob. Like you don't have much longer to see another championship. So I would just roll with what you got. I was curious though what his value is. Like, could you maybe trade him to get potentially a higher draft pick to try to get a rookie to make it work? Or
You would have to re-sign him though.
Jerry's not doing that.
No, I don't think so either.
I think once you re-sign him, the numbers, because you would have really had to do that last year, because after this year, he's a free agent, so no one's going to trade for him on an expiring contract, and if you re-sign him, no one's going to trade for him with a $60 million cap hit. So I think your hands are kind of tied behind your back with either letting him walk or locking him up for a big-time deal.
But I do think that if Jerry Jones is smart, I think he has to sign him before Trevor Lawrence gets his deal.
Oh, yeah. He has to get a deal done. Most of the quarterbacks, you want to get a deal done now before, well, if you're the team. If you're thinking from the team perspective, you want to have the chance to have the lowest of the contracts that are signed this year.
Yeah, I do think that speaks a lot towards why the Lions signed Jared Goff when they did, because obviously the money that he's going to be making is a ton, and people think that he's not a good quarterback. But with the last 2 seasons that he's had, he's put up incredible numbers. And if you give him that money now, there's going to be a long list of quarterbacks, including one in your own division, that are going to say, I deserve more than Jared Goff. And then you kind of forget about the Jared Goff. And similar with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who you give him a bunch of money, and he's only the highest paid receiver in the league for less than 24 hours. When A.J. Brown gets his extension, Jamar's going to get an extension. He's going to get a new contract somewhere, or maybe in Cincinnati. But.
Yeah, if you're any team in the NFL, you want to be first. And most of the time, that's counterintuitive to most things in life. You don't always want to be first. But in instances like these, you want to be first in getting contracts negotiated and done. So you set the market and what it is. You have the ability to determine what it is, and you're not pigeonholed to being the last guy and having to pay the most. So if I'm Jerry Jones, I think it is kind of a no-brainer after talking through all the possibilities. There's not very many, to be honest with you. I don't think there's a trade that you can work out. There's not really a quarterback on the market next year, right? That makes a whole lot of sense unless Trevor and Tua don't get signed, which we
One
all
name, if you're
expect
talking
them
about
to,
for
but-
Jerry going all in, could he outbid for Jordan Love? David Mulligetta doesn't let his guys sign a early contract, and that would be a big name, kind of exciting that he could go free agency for.
Is there a possibility that Dak would sign a short-term deal?
He just did. That's the only reason I don't think so. This is
No.
the end of a 2-year extension.
Okay.
So I think he's kind of already played the game with the Cowboys to give them a little bit of wiggle room. And
He's
I
not
think
going to be
done.
younger in 2 years.
Right. I think he's done. I think he passed up on what would have been, obviously not money-wise, a bigger payday, but where he lands amongst the quarterbacks, what would have been a bigger payday 2 years ago than where he's going to fall now. Even if he does end up being the number one paid quarterback, we know how contracts work. He'll be that for a month. But he would have got $50 million 2 years ago, and he decided to take a pay cut to make it a little easier on them to keep these guys around with bringing in Brandon Cooks and stuff like that, re-signing DeMarcus Lawrence. So I think he's planting his flag in the sand and demanding a big contract.
Guess we'll see. I think he is going to get the big contract. It's just, do you want to do it? I don't know. It just feels like to me you've hit the ceiling with Dak. Dak is undeniably a top 10 quarterback in the league. And this is what's so fickle about when you talk sports, is it's just that one game. It's just winning. Like, if he makes it to a conference championship game where it's a no-brainer. He's a top 10 quarterback. You've seen him have some success. It just seems that every time it's time to show up, he's not there. He's not there. Oh, well. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk more, I think, about this NFL, because I like talking quarterbacks. I like talking all this stuff. The one fact that I just found out was the Dallas Cowboys have drafted two quarterbacks in the first round, one of them being Troy Aikman. The other one happened back in the 60s. We'll be right back on 1410 Wing AM.
All right, I'm not going to do the bit. We have to do a 20-minute segment.
Okay, I thought we started at 11:15.
I was just doing the timer here. And, we had.
That was only a 10-minute segment?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It'll be a little longer then. And we are back on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Reed Mountain's final segment of the day. Kenner and Kev will be up after today's show. If you listen on radio, please come and join us on YouTube. We have a chat. I think people like the chat more than they do actually like the show. They just sit there and talk sports the entire time. We are live every day. Get on YouTube, search Chatterbox Sports. We are live every day from 10 a to 12 p. As I mentioned, Kenner and Kev will be up after today's show. We were just talking quarterback extensions, and I think it's so interesting. I think out of all the topics you can talk in sports, you can talk about quarterbacks and their extensions because they're the most prominent position in the sporting world. And we're talking, if you're Dallas, do you continue on with Dak? If you're Miami, do you continue on with Tua? All these fun things that I think are going to come to their head. And we did this segment 2 weeks ago. But will we get to a point in the near future where quarterback contracts go down in value? Because we're continually seeing them going up, going up, going up, going up. And it almost feels like a bubble. It almost feels like when Jared Goff, who is a good quarterback, he's taken two different teams to conference championships. I mean, I think his reputation is a little soured because the Rams, who got to the Super Bowl with him, said he's not good enough to get us over that hump. And then they went out and got a quarterback that got him over that hump. But now he is, and took the Rams to the conference championship, took him to a Super Bowl, and now he's taking the Lions, who have been perennial losers. Sorry, Jimmy, for in the rooms, but I think that's a fair thing to say.
It's a fair take.
Taking them to an NFC championship, and it looks like they're not going anywhere. Now, he's the second highest paid per year in the league, $53 million, only behind Joe Burrow. And I've had to take that, just what we saw with Patrick Mahomes a couple years ago. He signs $50 million a year. Oh, my God, he's getting all this money. Here we are 5 years later. He's not top 5 in per year. We're continually seeing values go up. Will we see a hit in the value in the incoming in the years? And what it's going to take? What it's going to take is for a contract to be so bad that you can't justify it anymore. Similar, I've made this comparison before. You're selling a house, right? You look at all the houses that are selling in the neighborhood. That's what my house is worth. I live in the neighborhood. My house is a similar size. You know, everyone, a nice round number is everyone used to be $200,000, but this house down the street that's the same size as mine is selling for $250,000. That's what I deserve. And all it takes is for one person to buy a house for $275 in the neighborhood, and it's just not worth that. All it takes is for one quarterback to get $57, $56, $55 million, and he's hurt every year. Or he's just playing bad when he's out there. We saw this after after Matthew Stafford gets traded to the Rams. Everyone's, we're going to go out and trade to get our quarterback. We're going to go out and trade to get our quarterback. What are the next two deals done? What are the next two trades? Deshaun Watson to the Browns. Not looking good. Russell Wilson to the Broncos. Didn't end well. So we've saw that market take a hit. You can't trade to go get these guys anymore. Will we see in the near future a hit to the value of quarterback contracts?
I think so, and I think it's going to take 1, 2, maybe even 3 failed contracts. Just like you said, it took 2 failed trades, 2 really ugly trades to really put an end to the trade market, and we saw that with Lamar Jackson. When Lamar Jackson went on the market for 2 first-round picks, any team in the league could have him, and no one even offered. So that trade market's almost completely dried up now, and I think the contracts will go the same way. If you give a guy like Tua Tagovailoa, like we were just talking about with Dak Prescott, even Jordan Love, after just 1 year of watching him play, if you give those guys a $50, $55 million contract, pushing $60 million contract, and it doesn't work, and you have to eat this dead cap, and you watch what the Broncos are going to have to do now. You have to jump and take a guy like Bo Nix at 12 because you simply don't have another option to field a team other than having a rookie quarterback. So you're locking yourselves up. You're tying your hands behind your back for almost a decade if it doesn't work out. So I think it's going to take a couple fails, and I think they're coming on the horizon. I think a couple of these quarterbacks that are going to get big-time contracts are not worth it and do not play to that level. And especially you look at the AFC, when you play a guy like Tua that much money, it doesn't just all of a sudden mean he's going to get to the AFC Championship. He still has to beat Burrow and Mahomes and Allen every year. Trevor Lawrence even coming up is going to get a contract. So I don't think these guys getting contracts in this next cycle are as good as these guys that got the contracts in the last cycle. And I also don't think the quarterbacks coming out of college are as good as these last couple cycles, which is going to see this upcoming quarterback class is not very good in the draft. And you're going to see some guys try to take, some people in the top 10, 15, try to take swings at quarterbacks to capitalize on the rookie contract. And we might see people take a step away from that whole rookie contract model after a QB class or 2 not working out. So I think the quarterback position as a whole is going to take a little bit of a regression to the mean in terms of how it's viewed with every other position on the football team. It's obviously always going to be the most important, but the way it's viewed now with how you either need a rookie contract or a bona fide superstar, I think people are going to find a little bit happier in the middle ground here in the next couple of years.
It is interesting to think about when you think of building an NFL roster. There's one thing, and we know it, that either dooms you or it makes everything a little easier, and that's the quarterback position. There's a reason that these teams go up and reach. They think, if you get a guy early in the first round, you're willing to trade other picks if it hits. Because once you got the quarterback, the rest of the roster construction becomes much easier. And you're seeing it on the other end. The New York Giants, famously, they trade up, they get Daniel Jones, and then they double down and give him an extension. And now their roster, you're looking at it going, what the heck is this? Just as easy as your job becomes once you draft well, once you get the no-brainer quarterbacks. And I think you mentioned an excellent point. With the last round of quarterbacks that got extension, they were all pretty much no-brainers. Joe Burrow, for what he's done to this city and when he's on the field, even with his injury concerns, when he's on the field, the team is undeniably a contender. That's a no-brainer. Justin Herbert, with the numbers he puts up, and when he looks like he hasn't had, the success in postseason that other teams have had, that other quarterbacks have had, but he looks like an absolute gamer, that's a no-brainer. Patrick Mahomes, obviously a no-brainer. Now we're getting into the guys that aren't no-brainers. Now we're getting into the Jordan Loves, the Dak Prescott, so we've kind of seen that. The Tua Tagovailoa, who's had a lot of regular season success, but not in the postseason, not when it gets cold. On top of that, he's got injuries. Jordan Love's only played 8 really, really good games. He's only had 1 year as a starter. Are you willing to give him big-time money? So they're becoming riskier investments. And teams are willing to give the money because they know when it works, it works. But we are 1 to 2 bad contracts away from plummeting that value again. People at one point were willing to give running backs big money. We're willing to give that. Then it took a couple of bad contracts to go, okay, well, we can't do that anymore. People are willing to give linebackers money. Then it took a couple bad contracts to go, okay, we're not going to do this. And now we're putting it on a bigger scale. Now we're putting it on these quarterbacks that are so influential to how a team plays that all it takes is 2 bads. Casey, what's the riskiest investment out of the next round, out of the 4 guys that are talked about getting extensions? We're talking Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, Tua, Dak Prescott. What's the safest investment? What's the riskiest investment?
Man, this is going to be a tough one. I think the riskiest investment is Tua, just because of the injuries, what he's had to have in order to be successful. I don't think you can just drop him in any offense and he'll be the same. I don't think that you can overlook the injuries that he's had, some career-threatening injuries. The next riskiest is probably, I want to say Jordan Love, just because we've only seen one. I'm not a big fan of Trevor Lawrence, but I think that he has more of a higher floor than he does that you can rely on, right?
Yeah, we don't know what we're going to see with Jordan. We don't know what we're going to see with next with Jordan Love. We're pretty confident that it looks pretty good,
right?
But we've only seen 8 games of him playing at a really high level.
Correct, and I think like Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he won with all the odds stacked against him in a playoff game. Like, regardless of who it was, he came back from 30-0 deficit. And
I do love that he gets credit for that. They were only down 31 because he threw 4 first-half interceptions.
I know. But I'm just saying, he was capable.
I'm the only T-Law fan in here.
I mean, I know I have him ranked like second on the most safest, but really the only safe bet to me is Dak, because you know what you're getting every year with Dak. You know you're getting a 30 touchdown, 10 interception, 4,000-yard thrower. He's a lot like Kirk Cousins to me. You can put him on any team, and he's going to produce you some good value at quarterback position. He's going to be above that top 15, top 16 quarterback line.
Dak, man, I'm trying to think of a car analogy for what Dak is. Because I asked, what's the riskiest, what's the safest bet? You know what you're getting with Dak. There's no smoke screen there. There is no he might be a little better. No, you know what you're getting with Dak. You get Dak, and you are a playoff team. He's a playoff quarterback. He is a top 10 bona fide quarterback and will be. I don't even think we talk about system quarterbacks, and let's not get it twisted. Dak Prescott has had a really good team around him for the majority of his career. But I even think that he can elevate bad teams. But you know that ceiling's pretty short. You know that just from what we've seen, and I've said it before, how fickle when we talk about these quarterbacks is all they have to do is win that one game. The reason we think of Joe Burrow so highly is because he made it to the Super Bowl, made it to the AFC Championship, because they beat the Chiefs. And the detractors of Joe Burrow will point out, what exactly did Joe Burrow do in those games? And I disagree, but they're not the most unfair criticisms. You know that the Dak is the safest investment there. But that being said, you know what you're getting with Dak. Is that worth $55 million? There's more there with Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence turns out to be a top 5 guy, that wouldn't be a shock to a whole lot of people. It'll be a shock to some. If Jordan Love continues on the trajectory that he's going, you can see him being a top 5 quarterback. You can see this guy making the Green Bay Packers contenders for years to come. Now, I think we all agree that Tua is the riskiest investment. And in fact, it doesn't even make a whole lot of sense to give him $50 million.
And they don't seem like they want to.
Correct.
He turned down a contract with average annual value below 50, and we're talking about a bad contract being necessary. That's the other thing that could help pull it back down, is someone agreeing to something a little less. If the Packers go into Jordan Love and say, hey, we saw you play 8 really good games, we're going to give you a contract at 45 because we think you're a good quarterback, but we don't want to go all the way in. And he says yes, well, that'll pull everything back down too, because if he goes out there and tears it up at 45, then the next guy's only going to get 48 or whatever that bump is. So as we're looking at bad contract, I think it's important to see that if someone takes a little bit of aggression in that bump, if someone doesn't outdo Burrow here soon, we could see that come down, which is certainly not what we want as Bengals fans. We want it to keep going up.
Correct. What we want as Bengals fans is honestly for Tua to not get that big contract. Because I think we all look at Tua and go like, that game in Kansas City was one of the worst quarterback games I've ever seen. Tua, who has been mentioned as an MVP candidate for 2 seasons now, didn't look like an NFL quarterback. It wasn't, and it looked like they could have played 36 quarters and it wasn't getting better. It wasn't bad luck. It's just he couldn't play in that weather. That team couldn't play in that weather. And on top of that, he's got injury problems. I don't know how in the world you give Tua that money. We talk about Jordan Love. Yeah, he's looked really great, and you know you're buying high with Jordan Love. He's played 8 really good games. You give him $50 million and he comes on out week 2, first 2 to 4 weeks and looks very bad, you're going to be wondering what you got there. Trevor Lawrence, one of the better prospects that we've seen in the last decade. Hasn't really shown it a whole lot as Jacob and Elliott and Casey. Not erroneously, it's fair criticism. He hasn't shown up to be the prospect that you think, but I'm still a believer in Trevor Lawrence. Dak, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because, as we mentioned earlier, we've already seen the trade market for quarterbacks. As quick as it was red hot, as quick as it looked like, that's what winning franchises do. They go out and get their guy. That's what the Rams did. They won a Super Bowl. If you think that you are a contending team, go get your quarterback. Browns go out and get Deshaun Watson, who previously looked phenomenal. Obviously, there was those off-field issues. Looked phenomenal. Looked to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. Looked to be a guy that could win you a Super Bowl. Haven't seen that since. Russell Wilson. There's a big talk about who deserves the credit in Seattle during that run. Was it Pete Carroll? Was it the defense? Was it Russell Wilson? Well, here we are a couple years later, and it looks pretty evident who won that divorce. So where are we going to go next with these quarterback markets? That's the question. That's the question that we keep asking ourselves. Will we see quarterback extensions before week 1?
I think we might be maxed out on quarterback extensions before week 1, unless Dak. Dak is the one that I would say maybe, just because of the other extensions that the Cowboys are looking at. But the other aspect that might hurt quarterback contracts from expanding here is how the other positions are expanding as well. I know the cap space is expanding, but wide receivers are getting almost $30 million a year now at the top of the receiver market, with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase still to be paid. I think Tyreek Hill only has 2 more years on his contract before he's a free agent again. I know he's threatened retirement, but he would seemingly get above that A.J. Brown $32 million a year number. If those numbers keep creeping up towards 40, towards 35, how are you going to be able to afford everyone? The cap is not moving at that rate where you can put elite weapons around an elite quarterback and pay them both. That's $50 million to 2 top 15 receivers and $50 million to a quarterback. That's over half your salary cap, damn near, without having anyone else on the team even signed. So I don't think that's feasible at all. And we're going to see teams like the Bengals. We're going to see what happens to the Bills this year, letting Stephon Diggs go. Prioritize weapons. And without weapons, how are quarterbacks going to be able to fare if you can't re-sign them?
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up what do you do with the Bengals. You brought up the Bengals and where they're currently at. I don't think there's anybody more vindicated on a smear campaign against the Cincinnati Bengals than Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter just put out 3 minutes ago, and I sent this to Casey. So it's no Jamar Chase, no T. Higgins at the start of Bengals voluntary OTAs. Both players are sinking new deals. I know he's just laying the facts out there, but he keeps saying the same facts that we know. We know Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are looking new deals. And we continue to do this. Gosh darn it, we're going to do the T. Higgins thing again.
He also doesn't say what the O in OTAs means when he tweets that. Optional.
Right. Well, he says voluntary.
Okay.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that a funny juxtaposition? Voluntary, optional training. Voluntary, optional. It's a fun 2 words.
But freak out because they're not here.
Well, it's just like I listen to national media and stuff like this. And actually, I'll steal this take from Kenner and Kev. They brought this up one time. And this is how we'll wrap up the show here on radio as we get ready to usher in Kenner and Kev. there is this sentiment that there's a lot of noise going around the Cincinnati Bengals. Trey Hendrickson's asking for a trade. T. Higgins wants a trade. He's not showing up to OTAs. And oh no, here goes Jamar Chase. He's not showing up for the voluntary optional. Voluntary OTAs. A lot of noise. Who has more noise around them right now? Who has more noise around their team? The Cincinnati Bengals, who had a contract dispute with their star defensive end, their star edge rusher. Oh, he showed up to all the voluntary stuff. Oh, that went away pretty quickly. They have contract disputes with T. Higgins. Oh, we already knew this. This has been going on for 2 years. Yeah, he's probably going to play under his contract, and then he's going to walk out the door next year, and he's going to play for somebody else and get the money he deserves. And, oh, yeah, they're going to extend Jamar Chase at some point, and we knew that this was around the time that they're going to get extensions. Or, hear me out here, or who has more noise around them, or the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are, yes, they're coming off back-to-back Super Bowls, and maybe that's why we're not talking about it a whole lot, is because they've been able to get over that bump and win a couple of Super Bowls. But they've got Rashee Rice in legal troubles. They've got Harrison Butker with his commencement speech, and Travis Kelce's everywhere with the biggest star in the world with Taylor Swift. Who's got more noise? The Cincinnati Bengals or the Kansas City Chiefs? Because regardless of what you're hearing in national media, it's certainly the Kansas City Chiefs. Casey?
Well, that
You were raising your hand before that.
Yeah. Also, just on top of that, you forgot to mention that a couple of their offensive linemen got busted for having drugs on them or something like that. So that not a very accurate statement I just said. It's like weed or something like that. But they got busted. They got incarcerated for it. So that's even more just drama stacked on top of that. So, yeah, I just thought something very interesting that was kind of hidden in between that news that you just broke about the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase thing was Von Bell was lined up across from Geno Stone and the starting defense.
Really?
Dax Hill and Jordan Battle came in with the second group.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Because you didn't think Geno Stone was going to be a starter. I thought that was a done deal.
No, I didn't say that. I said that.
That was Jordan Battle not starting.
Jordan Battle, I said it last year at this time. I'll say it again this year at this time, I guess. Jordan Battle will start week 1.
Yeah.
I was wrong by about 3 weeks last year. Jordan Battle will start with Geno Stone week 1. I'll bet any amount of money on. Jordan Battle was the number 1 PFF, I know. Number 1 PFF rookie safety last year. Number 1 in coverage grade, number 1 in tackle grade, number 1 overall. He was great when he stepped in for a pretty bad secondary last year. Von Bell will be able to coach him up. That's probably why he's there in the starting role. Maybe help Jordan Battle kind of mesh more into the defense since he's a veteran. He's been here. I don't know, but I would bet anything that Jordan Battle's going to be in there.
I mean, I was expecting it to be Jordan Battle, Geno Stone. The fact that will be.
That will be. That will be.
I don't know, guys. Like
I really think so.
Who do you think's gonna?
I think it could be Von Bell, Geno Stone. I think it could be, but I don't know how long Von Bell will stay there, right? Because I think he is older. This could probably be another regression year to where he's just not going to be. He's going to be the same mentally, but not physically. And I don't want to speak it into existence, but I expect Jordan Battle to be there at some point in the season.
I'm somewhat surprised to hear Dax Hill even in the mix at all at safety after all the talk
stuff about
them
cornerback
officially being moved to corner. I believe that was broken officially that he was moved to corner on the depth chart. So
I agree with
that's
that.
a little bit surprising for me to see him still in there at safety.
I agree with that. The other thing too was just the Bengals are doing a lot of 12 personnel, and they have Gesicki and Sample at tight end.
Love that.
So no rookies. I'm sure that's kind of to be expected. Chase Brown at running back. I don't think there's anything else that's crazy. Oh, some other guys that weren't there. Sheldon Rankins and Trent Brown were also not there.
Veterans.
So those guys don't want to play for the team either?
Yeah,
That's what we're coming down to?
Joe Burrow was there, though.
We're talking about contracts and how values at other teams and stuff like that can hurt contracts. Wait till you see the output that the Cincinnati Bengals get for their $5 million tight end, Drew Sample. It'll be the best value in the National Football League. Mark it down right now. Drew Sample in open space is the answer.
Just some stuff that's trickling in because they're starting to get going with practice. Dax Hill actually did take some reps at starting outside corner. He's doing some drills during the install period at the outside corner position currently.
Okay.
That's a nightmare to me. I don't know how you think about that, but Dax Hill at the outside corner, he's never played there. Not consistently. Every consistent snap he played at corner at Michigan was in the slot. So I was hoping that he's going to be the Mike Hilton replacement next year and beyond. But outside corner, we'll see how that goes.
I believe in King Lou. All right, that wraps up Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Kenner and Kev coming up next. Reds play at 6:40. 6:40's tip?
Yep.
6:40 tip going down to the stadium. 3-2-1 night. 3-2-1 night.
Best night in sports.
Best night in sports, as Jacob Tissick calls it. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Talk about the Reds extend their winning streak to 5 games. But Kenner and Kev up next here on 1410 Wing AM. All right, we are back. All right, we're off the radio. Fun little show, guys. That was a good one. We made it. I was worried. How are we going to do without Elliot here? So we held the ship. I hope Elliot's feeling better. Hope he's doing better. We have some news for some locals. Casey, Miami softball.
Yeah.
2 All-Americans.
Yeah.
Hey, look at us. Look
Give
at our
us some
softball
shout-outs.
team. We did Carly Spade, first team. Jenna Golombeski, second team. So shout out to Miami softball for getting a couple All-Americans out in right field. They put their All-Americans on the outfield wall, and they only had 1 on there this year. Now they're going to add 2 more to it. They have their first team in Carly Spade. I think she signed to play professional softball somewhere. Golombeski, second team. So congratulations to Miami softball. Selection show. Xavier didn't get in, right? I didn't see the baseball. They were on the bubble, but I don't think they were actually seriously on the bubble. I kept seeing that, but I got to go look at how that all shook out. Did you guys see this story about this D3 team,
Yes.
Birmingham Southern,
Yeah.
that went to the World Series, and the school is closed?
Yeah.
I think it's officially closed by the end of this week.
31st is its last day, and
Is
their
its
next
last day.
baseball game is the 1st.
Okay, so they're going to be playing in the College World. What's funny about Birmingham Southern that I found this out. So my brother played in the Big South when he was in college. And I guess Birmingham Southern used to be a Division I school, like just 15 years ago. And I think when my brother was a freshman, they were Division I, and then to cut costs, they moved down to D3 like 2 years later. It's really interesting to know how divisions work in the NCAA. It's just, do you want to give scholarships out, and do you want to offer sports? Because I think the difference between Division 1, 2, and 3 is how many sports you offer. And the difference between Division 3 and Division 2 is just if you want to give out scholarships. It's really interesting how it all works. Like, we always talk about how like what the difference is. It's just, do you want to give money into your program or not? That's how you decide.
Yep.
That's how you decide. But man, you're telling me Dax Hill's getting outside corner?
Yeah. I mean, they said that they were going to do it, right? I'm not
I hope they
shocked
were
over
lying.
it. I'm not shocked, but it's. I expect him to maybe still get that 5th-year option and then slide in where Mike Hilton will be next year. 100%. I feel like that's what's going to happen. They're just got to figure out a way to get him those snaps and be able to be versatile, right? Think about it like this. If they do feel comfortable with him being the 3rd, 4th corner on the roster, imagine how much relief that gives them knowing that they got a guy that can probably play at safety, probably play at outside corner, and in the slot. That's the way I'm thinking about it right now. He's not going to be some Pro Bowler type player, which maybe he could have been at the slot position if that was a position that they gave out. But I think overall, like, I'm not shocked over the fact that he's trying to do something that the team needs, right? They need depth at corner, so you got to go where the team needs you. And I'm assuming that he's still going to have some reps over at the safety position anyways. To be very clear, they made a mistake when they drafted him and put him at the safety position. That's not where he was naturally at. He was a slot corner for his entire tenure, really, in Michigan. He rarely played safety, and that being the ideal plan in place for Jesse Bates ended up working out, I guess, in the end here. We'll see what Geno Stone gives us. But as of right now, the starters that are out there that we've seen is Von Bell and Geno Stone. And that to me just spells that they don't feel comfortable with Jordan Battle currently, despite what PFF has graded. And they didn't feel comfortable with any of the other guys. So, I don't know. They got completely new safeties from last year now starting.
I still with the Jordan Battle thing. I know he's in the second group now, but it's just first day of OTA. He might even be starting by the end of the
we'll
week.
continue to see.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one for sure. But he really didn't give me any reason watching them last year to pull him out of that lineup.
I agree with you, which is why I find it so weird. To me, I'm wondering if this is like the reason why it's so shocking is because of what you said. He played so well. Makes me feel like maybe that they're just going to give it to Von Bell, the starting role, because running back with a guy that you love, right? Which I would hate for that to be the case if he's not truly the best option. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else shocking, though, that's currently come out from OTAs.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with the Bengals fandom. I gotta put it away for a little bit because it requires far too much energy once we get to the season. So I'm gonna try my best to just put it away. We'll get the dust off come August, and we'll really gear this thing up. And I like the expectations coming into this year. I really do like them because I feel like we still expect to be contenders, but like if things go okay, I know it's an easy schedule to begin the year, but like I don't think anyone's going to be sounding the alarms if things don't go red hot off the start, just because of how the end of last year. Although I always say we went 9-8 without a quarterback and playing the hardest schedule ever. You're raising your hand again.
I was just gonna say I keep getting trickling in news from this sort of thing, and
Big Pimpin'.
if we're not deep in any topic just yet, I'll just keep trickling in the news.
Yeah.
Charlie Jones, he's working with kick returners for the new kickoff rules. It'll be Charlie Jones, Brown, and Williams, Evans, Lassiter. Those are the guys that are all taking current reps with the new kickoff rules. So.
Charlie Jones was an incredible kick returner at Iowa before he transferred to Purdue and played predominantly wide receiver. He was really, really good kick returner at Iowa. So
can he run
that would be
east and
very
west really
exciting.
fast?
We always talk about how Charlie Jones runs out of bounds, but if you think about it, all they got to score is one touchdown and it's worth it.
Yeah,
that's a great
he did
kick
it last
return.
year.
And he did.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That was a punt, but like if you return one kick for 6, you are a good kick
Maybe
returner.
not anymore. Maybe they're churning out kickoff return touchdowns left and right this year.
We'll see.
There was quite a bit in the what is it now? The
USFL?
USFL. Is it that? No, it's UFL.
UFL?
Yeah, there was quite a bit
There's
in
been so
UFL. So
Will the USFL make it through this year?
I mean, they are, aren't
Or
they?
the UFL? Are they done? Is the season over?
No, they're getting
That
ready.
should tell you exactly how successful they were.
I'm just saying. Like, will we have another year next year? Because every year that whole thing is
The Rock's backing them now. They're not going anywhere. Those pockets are deep. Those pockets are deep. They might
I
not be
will
making
watch if
money,
The Rock
but
plays.
Yeah.
That's what they should do. The Rock plays.
I'd be
That'd
in.
be great.
I'd be in.
That'd be great. Oh my goodness. I would love to watch The Rock play D-end. Although at this point, The Rock, his physique isn't for function anymore.
Yeah. It's for
Like at
look.
one point, he was a functional.
Yeah, athlete.
Yeah. It's not for function anymore. Like
Yeah.
he's past
No,
that.
no.
It's for TV.
can't-
And I know he still wrestles from here and there, but like he ain't moving like he wants to. He ain't moving like he wants to. Jimmy giggles over there.
I was just reading the chat.
Oh, Sharon Peters.
Sharon Peters.
She's back in the chat.
Who?
Sharon.
Said Jake.
Oh, Sharon. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We will have box lunch up after this show. Yeah, we'll be bull junking away. Tomorrow, the Reds play at 1, so we'll have a watch along.
Yes.
For that game, we'll do a little watch along, and I think maybe we'll just give them content the entire day. Maybe we'll do an abbreviated box lunch. Get the videos that we need. This is talking tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Get the videos and everything that we need to do, and then we'll just sit around and watch the 110 kick. I don't know. We'll talk about it after this show. We have some somewhat exciting news that we'll share to you once we get that plan. It'll be next week's schedule. It's going to be something. I'm just giving you a little spoiler. It's going to be a little bit of a different look than you're used to. The spoiler that I'll say is we're not going to be in this studio for a couple days. We're not going to be in this studio for a couple days, but we'll still be giving you content. It might be somewhere else. Might be outside. That's all the tease I'm going to give you. That's all the tease I'm going to give you because we're still trying to figure that out. Looking ahead. Hopefully Elliot's back tomorrow. Hopefully he's feeling a little better. Casey, do we have a cherry on top? You sent me a direct message on Twitter.com.
Yeah, we do have a cherry on top. Let me just apologize to my wife before I show this because she hates this. But I thought it would be important to remember a fallen comrade. Harambe passed away
Rest in peace.
today.
Yesterday was Harambe's birthday.
Was it really?
According to that thing.
According to
So
that
he was
graphic,
born
it
Your
was.
graphic.
Wow.
May 27th, Harambe.
May he forever live in our hearts here in Cincinnati.
So that kid's 11 now?
Was he 3?
he was 3.
He was 3 when that happened?
You think he remembers it?
Yeah, I don't think he's ever
Oh,
stopped
yes.
seeing it.
I don't know. You don't start gaining memories.
Three's pretty young.
But
Yeah,
he's
you don't-
watched it every day of his life since then.
Yeah.
True.
There's not a chance he remembers that, though.
Yeah,
Not
but
a
like
chance. You don't start gaining memories till you're like
Yeah.
5 or 6.
exactly.
Near-death experience.
As someone who had a near-death experience when he was very young, when I was 6, I barely remember that.
Fair.
So
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying. Memories don't start coming in until later. Can the Reds get it done tonight? Can they get to 5?
Yes.
Well, they're
You
gonna
got
get
the pitching matchup.
They're gonna get to 12, so 13 actually.
All right.
We got to get the FCC road to 12. They're at 7.
Who's pitching tonight?
Andrew Abbott versus Kyle Gibson.
Meatball Gibson.
When?
Meatball. I love that. I don't like that. Elliot just calling every pitcher meatball. Meatball, whatever his name is. It started out with Kyle Hendricks.
Meatball Steel.
He's done it all. He's like, oh, Meatball Hendricks coming in here. And then I shocked him. I asked him to guess what Kyle Hendricks' career ERA was. Elliot's guess, I think, was a 4.8. He said he's got a 4.8 ERA. I think Kyle Hendricks has like a 3.4 career ERA. Against the Reds, it's not good. Against the Reds, it's not good. One of the worst memories I have at GABP was the Aristides Aquino game.
Which one?
The 3 home run against Meatball Hendricks. Meatball Hendricks moved to the bullpen. First game in the bullpen. We throw him in the 8th inning in a tie game. Gives up 2 runs. Like that didn't seem very bright. Oh well. All right. That does it for Off the Bench today. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have a full slate of content. Before we get off, guys, if you haven't already, just go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and hit that like button. We'll be back tomorrow here on Off the Bench, presented by United Air Farmers. For the members, we'll be right back in just a few minutes with Box Lunch. Stay tuned, members.